Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. As you could see, our guest, Mr. Greg Dickerson, is out and about doing things, and he still finds time to speak with us each week. Greg, thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Good to see you.
Awesome. So we got three exciting topics today. The first one is really, we're in a bear market, right? The stock market is back in the bear market territory. There's a lot of talk. Are we in a recession? Are we going into a recession? I just thought maybe you and I could talk about lessons learned from past recessions. You and I have experienced a couple of doozies. We've had to take massive action. We were both hurt in them. So let's talk about some lessons learned from those past recessions. We'll play ping pong, meaning you're the guest, you can go first, and we'll go back 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing is there's a lot of unknowns out there, right? So a lot of big things can happen that you don't even know about, not even thinking about, aren't even aware of. And back in 08, 09, a lot of people in the business now on Twitter, on YouTube, analysts, YouTubers, economists, even investment managers like, ARK, Kathy Wood's staff, none of those analysts for her researchers were around during 2008 and 9. And, it's very different researching an event like 2009 and going through it as an investor.
Amen.
2 very different things. You can research a topic and research something, but if you didn't go through it with your own, skin in the game, cash on the line, your livelihood at stake, you just can't really understand the level of what that was and how it affected the economy and everybody around you. So what the biggest thing I learned back then is your world as we know it can change in a heartbeat. What you did that worked without even thinking about it every single day that you just thought this was just business and how you make a living can go away instantly, overnight, instantly. The other thing is things can go a lot further than you think, both directions. The markets especially, they can go a lot further down than you think, faster than you think. They can go a lot higher than you think, faster than you think. And things can take a lot longer than you think to correct, as we saw from 08, 09 till, what was it? I don't know, it took about 5, 6 years for things to kind of recover. The markets specifically, real estate took 11, 12 years, I think, to recover from 08, 09. So there's a lot of things out there that people just don't know, we aren't thinking about, and we are very globally connected now, even more so than we've ever been. So when you go back and look at the 1920s and 1940s and things like that, this is a very different economy, global macroeconomic economy than it was back then. So, there's just a lot more that, you need to be thinking about and being aware of if you're an investor. If you're just doing your thing and going to work every day and, whatever, you just keep on trucking, kind of like 08, 09, some of the Wall Street bankers, there was a story about them walking down on the street. It might even have been Hank Paulson looking around going, people just have no idea what's coming. And it was economic Armageddon in 08, 09. And some insiders say that we're facing the same thing now. We've gone from a soft landing to a plane crash landing to it blew up in the sky. So we're no longer looking for, a crash landing or even a soft landing. We've blown up in the sky. So the question is, can we keep the debris from hitting the planet? And that's kind of where we are right now.
Wow. Yeah. One of the things that I remember from the last couple of crises is, again, a lot of folks become experts at this or that. I'm obviously a real estate guy, and you focus on the real estate market. You look at this, you look at that, but you don't realize there's this whole other kind of layer, really 2 layers I'll talk about here. One is the lending market, right? When lenders get scared, they can either come out and flat tell you a no, or they can add so many conditions a deal just doesn't look appetizing. And then second, it doesn't matter how good credit you have. It doesn't matter if you don't miss a payment. It doesn't matter if you're still employed. If they don't want to lend, they won't lend. And then lastly, you may think you have a HELOC open and you got all this access to capital and blah, blah, blah. They can shut those things off in an afternoon if they get really scared. So the first thing I remember is, you've got to look at the lending market. And then lastly, and this is what I've studied for 30 years, the consumer sentiment, consumer psyche, moves in waves. And what we have just been through the last 2 years, this asset bubble, this, everything is great, party time, everybody's got cash, to what is coming will be a significant change. And to your point, things go on longer and higher or lower than you expect. So yeah, consumer psychology is once damaged, it takes a while to rebuild. So that's my first one. What do you got next?
Well, and I love everything is great. The party goes on, and things were easy the last couple of years, and that's fine. You just got to know when the party's over. When they give you last call, you need to understand it's last call. We were
Yeah,
calling the last call November, December, and people were like,
we
"Oh,
did.
that's FUD. You guys are just bears. You don't know what you're talking about." The Fed said last call. They said if you want your drinks, get them
Repeatedly.
now because we're turning the lights on and everybody's going home. So you just need to understand, when does the bull market end? When does the bear market end? When does the bull market start? That's all you got to know. And you don't have to pick the exact bottom or the exact top. Just listen to the Fed. So inflation's down. That's when the bull market's going to start again. The Fed can stop, not pivot necessarily, but at least stop. You're going to see bull market back on a rage, because there's a ton of capital out there on the sidelines, and people have to invest. Capital has to allocate. Pension funds need to earn. Investment funds need to earn. Wall Street needs to keep their jobs. And more importantly, why do you get a Santa Claus rally every year? Because everybody's bonus is at stake. So there's some nice little bounces coming, nice little things coming. But the key is you got to know when the party's over. The other thing on credit that I learned, what was the biggest lesson I learned? How banks work, how they think, how they work, and what they're really trying to protect. And the biggest lesson was, as soon as you close a loan, you're in technical default. They can call that loan at any point because you've got covenants and conditions that you have to maintain that you qualified for that loan that are going to change. So a bank can call your loan pretty much any time. And, basically as soon as you close, they can call technical default. Now, in this environment, would they and do they want to? No, very different than 08, 09. 08, 09, they were just calling loans and just foreclosing and doing stuff that, you just didn't think was possible.
Mhm.
So very interesting time. So many lessons I could go back and go on, but the biggest
Yeah.
ones are, you need to protect your assets because they can evaporate. Net worth is not spendable. I lost all my net worth overnight. Everybody talks about net worth. I hear a lot of people have net worth goals. Net worth is not spendable. Net
No,
worth
exactly.
does you no good in the whole scheme of things if you need cash today, in an environment like we're in now. 2 years ago, last couple of years, sure, net worth was great. You could leverage it, you could borrow, you could do a lot of different things. But right now, cash is king. I knew that last time. You know, I know that this time. Understand when the party's over and understand when the dance begins.
I don't know if you saw that cash is king. It's funny, you and I have been talking about, Ray Dalio's, was saying for the longest time that cash is trash. He obviously pivoted recently, which I assume you've seen. When rates got to 4%, he's like, cash is still good. You and I, thankfully, have been talking about that for a while. The last one I'll say, and then we'll get on to topic number 2, is recession bear markets aren't fair. And I say this first as an employee. I was a manager in the Great Recession, and I was asked to lay off and basically try to save companies. And it didn't matter if you were the best employee. Sometimes whole divisions, whole areas had to go. It's not fair. The dot-com crash, we were on the cusp. I was at a small startup company that was on a glide path to an IPO. We probably missed the IPO window by 60 days, which would have been game changing. And unfortunately, given the rapid descent, we were basically sold for pennies about 9 months later. It's not fair. It's not fair. Take care of yourself. Emergency funds, skill up, network, keep moving forward. Again, there will be amazing opportunities that live behind fear. But yeah, it's not fair. I don't know what to say.
That's your takeaway today. Everybody watching this, bad things are going to happen to good people regardless, right? It's just going to happen. It's not fair. It's not right. The Fed did this. They put everybody in a 2%, 2.5% loan on their house that they'll never get again, potentially. That's doubled and tripled by now, depending on what rate people locked in at. So that's going to affect people, lock them in their houses. It's going to create damage in the real estate market. They drove the asset bubble up. A lot of pensioners, a lot of retirees are getting hurt now because of that. We don't know how far down it's going to go and how long it's going to stay there. So there's a lot of fear and uncertainty there. And the retail people are selling. I'm getting calls every day from retail people. Hey, should I go to cash? And I'm like, probably should have in December, like I told you, but yeah. So
Yeah.
have cash on the sideline, be
Yeah.
prepared. But here's the biggest thing. Okay. And I learned this a long time ago. There is no job security and there are no guarantees. The only security you have and the only guarantees you have are you, yourself, and how you develop yourself in your education. You're the only guarantee you have. You are the only job security you have. You need to learn how to earn outside of the W-2 world. And there's never been a better time in the history of this planet than right now, that if you haven't done it and you're not doing it, you need to go out there and you need to earn outside of your W-2 job. And it's like I always say, if you want something, don't say I can't afford it. Figure out, how can I? Go out there and create a second source, third source, fourth source, multiple sources of extra income that don't require you to sit behind a desk somewhere or show up somewhere on a job site or whatever it is, so that you can earn from what you know versus what you do. And that's the difference. Once you learn how to earn from intellectual capital and leveraging those types of things versus, what you do. And there's nothing wrong with earning for what you do if you lever that up as well. You can have other people that you can teach what you do, and they can, you can leverage their talents, skills, and abilities. But anyways, the only job security you have is in yourself. The only guarantees you have are yourself.
Like, where can people find you?
GregDickerson.com.
Thank you, buddy.